Some things definitely look better for the New York Islanders on opening night, but too many familiar problems caused them to get yet another overtime loss. We're going to break it all down for you and preview Saturday's game against Dallas. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We have got a lot to discuss after opening night here about the New York Islanders. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we'll gladly mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Wow, what a familiar story the season opener was for the New York Islanders. All throughout preseason, we kept hearing how we expected things to be a little different this year, that Patrick Roy would get this team to be more responsible defensively, Tommy Albaline would help the penalty kill, that they were in better condition so we wouldn't see collapses. And while there were definitely some things to point to that were great in game one that show that this team in certain areas is indeed better, too many of the same problems just kept popping up. And in the end, the Islanders fall to the Utah Hockey Club in overtime 5-4. So the Islanders, after leading the NHL last year in loser points, open up the season with a loser point. And a disappointing one, because essentially the Islanders blew two third-period leads ahead 3-2, give up a goal less than a minute later, ahead 4-3 with 2 minutes and 7 seconds left, and give up a goal 13 seconds later, and then lose it in overtime. And, to me, the big issue, again, just too many of the same problems. Let's start with the penalty kill. The Islanders, again, allow 2 power play goals. And, you just can't do that. You cannot have your penalty kill be that bad. And you have to find a way to kill penalties and be better. Utah essentially had 2 power plays and scored 2 power play goals. That is not going to cut it. And again, I know Tommy Albaline comes in, so you have a new coach. And look, I don't expect, and everydayers know I said this already, I don't expect this team to go from, worst penalty kill in the league last year, very little changes in personnel, you put on a new coach, and then instantly this team's penalty kill is going to be really, really good. I did not have any illusions about that. But 0 for 2, giving up 2 goals in 2 power play chances. That is just not the way to get it done. And again, we're seeing a team that is not being positionally sound defensively, not picking up their men, and maybe more importantly, they're so passive. During both penalty kills, you almost never saw the Islanders out there pressuring the guy with the puck. And when you're down a man and you're not pressuring the guy with the puck to force him to make a fast decision and then hopefully a mistake of some kind, they're going to find the open guy because by definition, somebody has to be open. And in both of those penalty kills, somebody found a crease and, voila, the puck is in the back of the net. And I will say this, it has to be better. I don't expect instant success, but I didn't expect complete failure either. Absolute 0 for 2 trying to kill penalties. And even more frustrating, that second power play goal they gave up comes right after the Islanders take the lead on a beautiful shorty by J.G. Pageau. Simon Holmstrom and Pageau, they're dangerous shorthanded. Both to the team on the power play and to the Islanders because, boy, they can't kill anything anymore. So, look, that passivity and that lack of positional soundness, that is a very, very bad combination for the penalty kill. And look, it'll take time, but they have to be better. They absolutely have to be better. Do I think you can blame Semyon Varlamov for any of these goals? Were any of them, in my mind, soft? No, I don't think so. And yet, you look at the box score, if you didn't watch the game, Varley only had an 808 save percentage. But none of those goals were soft. None of them were, he should have had that. It was more like, defensive breakdowns. They left guys unattended in prime scoring areas. And, again, some of the things we just saw too much of last year. First period, you're out shooting the opposition solidly. You had a good period. You're up 1-0. Less than a minute in the period, you give up a goal. Yeah, power play goal, but you give up a goal. Too many times, as I mentioned, you score a goal, you give it up. You score a goal, you give it up. Not being responsible defensively, not getting back, not back checking adequately. That is just not the way you want to play the game. And then the other thing that was very frustrating, the missed opportunities. The missed opportunities. You get a 4-minute power play midway through the third period with the game tied 3-3. And not only did the Islanders not score on the power play, but out of those 4 minutes, they didn't spend more than a minute and a half, let's say, in the offensive zone. When they did, they ended up overstaying on the shift. And then after that initial situation, after that initial minute and a half or so, they couldn't reestablish the zone. And in that minute and a half, they didn't really create any legitimate scoring chances. Sometimes you look at numbers and numbers tell you the story. And sometimes, and if you look at the numbers here, the Islanders had a power play goal and a shorthanded goal in this game. But sometimes it's not just when, how you score or when you score, but it's the situation. When you have a 4-minute power play in a tie game at home, you've got to at least, look, you're not going to score every time, but you've got to at least be creative. You've got to move the puck. You've got to create scoring chances, and the Islanders just didn't do it. So again, losing leads in the third period, penalty kill, not coming through in big situations, defensive lapses. Unfortunately, a lot of these issues that we saw last year and that bothered us last year were back against the Utah Hockey Club. And look, Utah I think they're going to surprise some people this year. This team has speed, and the Islanders, again, another thing that certainly was a problem. They had trouble keeping up with Utah's speed at different times in the game. It was costly, and that includes overtime, where the Islanders continue to struggle just like they did last year. And I think part of it is when you have an older team that is not top to bottom really fast, overtime, 3-on-3, where there's a lot of extra time and space, that is not going to be to your advantage. So overall, a disappointing end to the Islanders' first game. But I would be lying if I didn't say there weren't some bright spots. There definitely were bright spots in this game. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We'll have our hero and go to the game. And we will also talk about Saturday's game that opens a 3-game road trip as the Islanders travel to Dallas. We'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day, a checking center who was with the Islanders from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. Let's see if you can guess who this former Quebec Nordique draft pick was or is. We've got that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging, so you can connect with candidates faster. And you can join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So there were some highlights in this game. As frustrating as the final outcome was, as much as they had so many opportunities to win this game, and they blew it. But let's talk about what was good out there. The first line was rather productive in this game. Anthony Duclair, a goal and an assist. Bo Horvat, a goal. Matthew Barzal, an assist. This was an effective evening for that top line. And again, they're still getting to know each other as far as, playing in regular season games and getting that chemistry. Hopefully they continue to get the job done. And, again, they looked the part. And you know who else looked the part? The newcomer, Maxim Tsyplakov. He scored a goal in his Islanders debut, and he led the team with 6 hits. And just in case you were wondering, does Patrick Waugh have faith in Max Tsyplakov? Matthew Barzal led the Islanders with 22 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time among forwards. Bo Horvat and Max Tsyplakov were tied for second with 20 minutes and 46 seconds. And Tsyplakov had 6 hits in this game, which is rather impressive. That led the team. So the two newcomers look great. The top line looked great. The second line, Nelson, Palmieri, and Tsyplakov, they looked solid in this contest. But the bottom six is where the problems were. And, Pajot got the shorty, but his line with Holmstrom and Lee, didn't really do a lot. And Noah Dobson, Noah. Look, let's do hero and go to the game before we go any further. The hero of the game, in my mind, I'm going with Anthony Duclair. And in fact, you know what? I'll give it as a tie between Duclair and Tsyplakov because they both look great. I mean, Duclair had 2 points, the only Islander besides Dobson with 2 points on the night. But I think that Tsyplakov's physicality and his overall play, I'm going to let the two newcomers share the honors for hero of the game. Go to the game, even though he had 2 assists, it's got to be Noah Dobson. On at least 2, probably 3 of those goals, Dobber was at fault. On the 3-on-1 in overtime, Dobson was one of the 2 players caught up ice. On the power play goal, the second one, Dobber didn't pick up his man, was kind of in no man's land, was indecisive, was passive. Look, I like what Noah Dobson brings to the game offensively. I think he looked pretty good on the power play as well, quarterbacking it. He had 3 block shots. Only Ryan Pollock and Alexander Romanov had more with 4. But his play in his own zone is so darn sloppy that you just can't put up with it. Just yesterday, everydayers, just yesterday on this show, we talked about the importance of Dobson picking up his game defensively in order to become an elite defenseman. If he wants to be a Norris Trophy candidate, he can't just get the 70 points and yet be an absolute liability in his own zone. He can't do it. And yet that is what he did again last night against Utah. And this coaching staff has got to work with Dobson. He has the talent. He has the ability. I'm not expecting him to be a shutdown defender. He's not going to be the next Dave Langevin. He's not going to be a guy who just out physicals players in the defensive zone and is just an unbelievable player in his own zone. But he can't be a liability either. You can't allow that to be, he can't be the guy who every time he's on the ice, you hold your breath when the puck goes into the defensive zone. Let's get the guy to at least average. Let's get him to responsible. It has to happen because if it doesn't happen, he has the potential to win a Norris Trophy if he can get his game together. But he's not growing enough in his own zone, and that needs to be worked on. The fourth line was -1 across the board, but I think they had moments. I think McLean, Cizikas, and Wahlstrom has some potential. Between them, though, that trio had 0 shots on goal. McLean had 3 hits, but 0 shots on goal. And, in the faceoff circle, McLean, 5 out of 9, so that's not bad. Brock Nelson, 15 faceoffs he took in this game. He won 3. Got to do better than that. 3 up and 12 down. So, look, there were some things. I think the chemistry between the lines was better. The power play, except for that 4-minute monstrosity, they connected on a goal, looked good. The 2 newcomers played well. I think Varley was fine, but too much deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say, in this disappointing loss for the New York Islanders. But hey, they got a point. I don't want to be saying that too many more times this season. I'm tired of saying, oh, yeah, well, they still got a point, even though they blew the lead, or even though they had a collapse, or even though they, outplayed them but lost the game. No, we have to lose that mentality. And, post-game interview, I hope nobody was stressing, hey, we got a point. You should have had 2. And at the end of the season, when they add up all those points, the points you didn't get that you should have gotten, come back to haunt you. This team, on paper, is not good enough to give up points that they should get. You can do it once in a while. It happens to every team. But if it becomes a habit like it was last year, oh boy, are we in trouble. All right. Still reasons for hope. We've got more to get to on today's show. We will have our Islanders' birthday of the day. And the Islanders start a 3-game road trip Saturday night in Dallas. We will preview that game. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. We'll get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And now look, check out the odds for the Islanders. Will they bounce back against Dallas on Saturday night? You can check that out. You got the Mets, the Yankees. You've got college football, pro football, so much to check out in October. So head on over to FanDuel.com. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Islanders will face the Dallas Stars in Game 2 of this season. And again, this is a situation where you're 0-1, and it's time to be a little bit better in Game 2. Got to finish off. And look, the Dallas Stars right now, they won their season opener, a 4-3 win on the road in Nashville. So this game for them is going to be their home opener, and I'm sure the Islanders will have to sit through the usual ceremony, which goes without saying. And look, the Stars were one of the better teams in the league last year. They were and are cup contenders right now. And they have a lot of talent. You look at the line combinations. Jason Robertson, one of the more dangerous goal scorers in the Western Conference. Rupe Hintz and Logan Stankoven, they are the top line, and they are a dangerous one. Matt Duchene centers the second line. Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin are his wingers. Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston, and Evgeny Dodonov left to right on that third line. And then the fourth line, Oscar Back, Sam Steele, and Colin Blackwell. On the blue line, Miro Heiskanen and Matt Dumba make up a really strong top pair. Thomas Harley and Ilya Lyubushkin are the middle pair, and then Asa Lindell and Niels Lundqvist are the third pair. The goalies, Jake Ottinger, again, one of the better goalies in the league. The backup is Casey DeSmith. Now, Ottinger played in that season opener against Nashville, but because it's so early in the season, we could see him again. Mason Marchment had 2 goals, while Logan Stankoven had 3 assists in that game for the Dallas Stars. So those are some of the players to watch early on in this season. And oh yeah, by the way, Dallas did give up a power play goal, and they also scored a power play goal in that opening game. Dallas can be physical, they can be skilled. The Islanders will have to be smarter and positionally sound defensively if they hope to pull off the win in Dallas. And it'll also be interesting to see from an Islanders perspective whether or not Ilya Sorokin gets the start on Saturday, or whether or not the Islanders again go with Varley. And here's the thing. I get the feeling Sorokin will play Saturday because Varley is going to want to start on Monday in Colorado, one of his former teams. But we'll see whether or not Sorokin is ready and whether or not Patrick Roy is confident enough in him right now to be ready to start a game. We'll find out, and we'll keep you up to date on X when we know who the starter is going to be. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and well, today is the 56th birthday of former Islanders center Claude Lapointe, the native of Lachine, Quebec, drafted by the Nordiques in the 12th round back in 1988. Made his NHL debut in 1990-91 for Quebec, stayed with them until the 95-96 season when they moved to Colorado, and early on that year he was traded to Calgary, but then in 96-97 joined the Islanders and stayed on the island until late in the 2002-2003 season when he finished out his career with the Philadelphia Flyers. Had his first 4 seasons had between 10 and 15 goals for the Islanders, but let's face it, Lapointe was a checking two-way forward, and he was pretty good at it despite only being 5'9", 188 pounds. One of his better games as an Islander, October 24th, 1998, Islanders hosting the Sabres at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Dominik Hasek against Tommy Salo. That's the goaltending matchup. And in this game, with the Islanders up 1-0 late in the first, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Claude Lapointe scores his second goal of the year. Trevor Linden and Brian Smolinski with the assist. That made it 2-0 Islanders. Islanders led 4-0 late in the second period, only to see Buffalo come back with 4 unanswered goals. But in the final minute, Claude Lapointe scores. Our Islanders' birthday today scores an unassisted game-winning goal. The Islanders end up with a 5-4 win over the Sabres. For Lapointe, he had 2 goals. He was a +1. He had 4 penalty minutes and 6 shots on goal, which led the team. He did pot the game winner and was on ice for 21 minutes and 31 seconds. 32 saves for Tommy Salo, but Claude Lapointe, a solid two-way checking forward. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We will be back Monday with a full review, key takeaways from the game in Dallas, and a preview of Monday night's game, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday, that Monday game in Colorado. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Hopefully, better things are ahead. And of course, let's go Islanders.